The room is full of people, but somehow you feel more alone than if you were standing on a mountain in the dark. You smile at the right moments. You nod when others speak. You measure your words carefully, not because you are being wise, but because somewhere beneath the surface you are calculating how you might be received. Will they approve? Will they respect you? Will they think you are intelligent, strong, impressive, interesting, worthy? And though no one can see it, a quiet war is happening inside you. A war between who you are and who you think you must become to be accepted. This is how the search for approval begins. Not always loudly, not dramatically. It often begins in subtle ways. You hesitate before speaking your truth. You soften your opinion so others will not dislike you. You laugh at things you do not find funny. You say yes when your spirit is already saying no. You over-explain your choices. You check your phone, hoping someone responded. You watch the reactions of others like a man watching weather patterns before deciding whether he is allowed to feel calm. And slowly, without realizing it, your inner world becomes a courtroom. Everyone else becomes the judge. Their attention becomes evidence. Their silence becomes punishment. Their approval becomes your temporary freedom. But temporary freedom is not freedom. It is dependence wearing a softer name. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that the person who depends on the approval of the world will never belong to himself, because the world is unstable. People change, opinions shift, praise comes and goes. Crowds admire one day and forget the next. To build your identity on approval is to build a house on water. It may look beautiful for a moment, but it cannot hold you. And yet, most people spend their entire lives doing exactly that. They become exhausted not because they are weak, but because they are constantly performing confidence, performing happiness, performing success, performing indifference, performing a version of themselves they believe will finally be enough. But the performance always demands more. One compliment is never enough. One achievement is never enough. One person's approval is never enough. Because approval does not heal insecurity. It feeds it. It gives the wound a moment of warmth, then leaves it colder than before. And this is the deeper problem. You do not seek approval because the world is powerful. You seek approval because you have forgotten the power of your own judgment. You have been trained to look outward for permission to exist. Perhaps it began when you were young. Maybe approval was love. Maybe you learned that being useful made you valuable. Maybe you learned that silence kept peace. Maybe you learned that your worth increased when others praised you and disappeared when they criticized you. So you became skilled at reading rooms, skilled at adjusting yourself, skilled at becoming what others needed. But now, years later, you find yourself tired in a way sleep does not fix. Because somewhere along the path, you stopped asking, "What do I believe?" and started asking, "How will this make me look?" That question is a prison. It may not have bars, but it controls movement. It controls speech. It controls ambition. It controls love. It controls silence. A person seeking approval is never truly still, because even in rest, the mind is negotiating with imagined opinions. What will they think if I fail? What will they say if I change? What if they no longer admire me? What if I disappoint them? What if I am rejected? What if they see the real me and decide I am not enough? This is not humility. This is fear dressed as social awareness. And fear is a subtle master. It rarely says, "I am controlling you." It says, "Be careful. Don't make them uncomfortable. Don't stand out too much. Don't risk being judged. Don't become someone they can criticize. But a life built around avoiding criticism becomes small, very small. You begin choosing safety over truth, acceptance over freedom, approval over alignment, and eventually the soul begins to ache, because the soul does not want applause, it wants honesty. There is a reason Stoicism still speaks to people centuries later, not because it promises comfort, but because it offers freedom, a harsh kind of freedom at first, the kind that asks you to stop blaming the world for chains you continue to polish. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Most people read that and misunderstand it. They think it means you should become careless. It does not. It means that if your growth depends on being praised, you will never grow. Because true growth often looks foolish to people who are committed to remaining the same. When you begin changing, some will question you. When you become disciplined, some will mock you. When you set boundaries, some will call you selfish. When you stop explaining yourself, some will call you distant. When you stop seeking approval, some will say you have changed, and they will be right. You have changed. You have stopped living as a reflection of their expectations. That is not arrogance. That is self-respect returning. Imagine a man standing before an ancient statue at night. The temple is empty. Rain falls beyond the pillars. A single torch burns beside him, throwing shadows across the stone face of a philosopher who has been dead for centuries. The statue does not move. It does not beg to be understood. It does not lower itself to gain attention. It simply stands there, weathered by time, unmoved by the opinions of passing generations. Empires rose and fell, crowds shouted and vanished, names once praised became forgotten dust. But stone remained. This is what approval cannot give you, a center, a place inside yourself that does not tremble every time the world looks away. Most people never build this center, so they become emotionally homeless. They live inside other people's reactions. A smile gives them warmth. A cold tone takes it away. Praise lifts them, criticism ruins them. Their peace is never truly theirs. It is rented from the moods of others, and anything rented can be taken back. This is why the approval-seeking life becomes so draining. You are never finished. There is always someone else to impress, someone else to please, someone else to convince, someone else to prove yourself to. You might win admiration in one room, only to enter another and feel invisible again. You might receive praise one day, only to become anxious the next, because the praise did not return. This is the hunger that never ends. Because what you are truly craving is not attention, it is certainty. You want the world to finally confirm what you have not yet accepted within yourself. That you are enough. That your path matters, that your presence has value, that your choices are valid. But no amount of applause can permanently give you what only self-respect can build. The world may clap today and turn away tomorrow. You must not become dependent on the sound. Modern life makes this harder. It turns approval into numbers, views, likes, comments, followers, subscribers, messages, metrics. Attention becomes visible, measurable, addictive. A person posts something and checks for response. A creator uploads a video and watches numbers rise or stall. A worker measures his worth by recognition. A man measures his attractiveness by replies. A woman measures her beauty by attention. A young person measures their identity by strangers who scroll past them in seconds. This is a strange kind of slavery, not imposed by chains, but chosen through comparison. You begin asking numbers to tell you who you are, and numbers are cruel gods. They rise, they fall, they never stay loyal. A Stoic would look at this and ask a simple question. Is your character improving? Not your image, not your popularity, not your appearance in the eyes of others, your character. Are you more disciplined than yesterday, more honest, more patient, more courageous, more grounded, more useful, more free? Because if not, approval is distracting you from the only work that truly matters. The Stoics were not against reputation entirely. They understood that how you live matters, but they warned against becoming enslaved to what others think. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." That sentence should stop you, because it exposes a contradiction most people live with every day. You live inside yourself. You know your fears, your intentions, your efforts, your private battles, your quiet sacrifices, and yet you often give more weight to the opinion of someone who barely knows you, someone who sees only fragments, someone who may be judging you through their own insecurity, someone whose approval may not even be worth having. Why do you give them the throne? Why do you let passing voices rule the kingdom of your mind? This is the question that begins the transformation. Not angrily, not arrogantly, honestly. You begin to see how much energy you have wasted trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding. How many choices you delayed because someone might criticize you. How many times you betrayed your own instincts to remain acceptable. How many times you made yourself smaller so others would feel comfortable, and something inside you begins to shift. At first, it feels uncomfortable because approval seeking is not just a habit, it becomes an identity. You may not know who you are without the need to be liked. So silence feels dangerous. Disapproval feels like death. Rejection feels like proof. But it is not proof. It is simply rejection. Nothing more. A person can reject you and still be wrong. A crowd can ignore you and still be blind. A family can doubt you and still misunderstand your path. The world can fail to recognize your worth, and your worth can remain intact. This is difficult to believe at first, because approval has trained your nervous system to treat disapproval like danger. But the danger is not being disliked. The danger is losing yourself trying to avoid it. There is a scene that happens in many lives, though it takes different forms. A person stands at the edge of a decision, a new path, a hard conversation, a boundary, a dream, a necessary ending. They know what must be done. Their intuition has already spoken. But then the imagined crowd appears. What will they say? Will they laugh? Will they judge? Will they leave? Will they think I am foolish? Will they think I am selfish? And so the person delays. Not because they lack wisdom, but because they lack permission. This is how lives are wasted. Not always through laziness, often through waiting to be approved by people who were never assigned authority over your destiny. A Stoic life begins when you stop outsourcing permission. You do not need the world to clap before you begin. You do not need everyone to understand before you change. You do not need approval before you become disciplined. You do not need applause before you choose peace. You do not need validation before you respect yourself. The approval of others is pleasant, but it is not necessary. That distinction changes everything. A person who enjoys praise but does not need it remains free. A person who fears criticism but still acts with integrity becomes strong. A person who can be misunderstood without collapsing becomes dangerous in the quietest way. Not dangerous to others, dangerous to illusions, dangerous to manipulation, dangerous to every force that once controlled them. Because when you stop needing approval, people lose a certain power over you. They can dislike you, but they cannot define you. They can misunderstand you, but they cannot redirect you. They can withhold praise, but they cannot starve you. They can criticize your path, but they cannot walk it for you. This is where peace begins, not when the world becomes kinder, but when your inner authority becomes stronger. The transformation starts small. You say no without writing a speech afterward. You let someone misunderstand you without chasing their interpretation. You choose discipline even when no one notices. You pursue a goal privately. You stop announcing every intention. You stop asking people to bless your decisions. You become quieter, not because you are hiding, because you are finally listening inward. At first, people may notice. Some may not like it. They may be used to the version of you that explained everything, the version that softened every boundary, the version that performed emotional labor to keep everyone comfortable. When that version begins disappearing, some will resist. This is not always because they hate you. Sometimes people simply prefer you in the role that benefits them. The agreeable one, the available one, the one who says yes, the one who apologizes first, the one who needs approval enough to stay controllable. When you stop needing approval, certain relationships reveal themselves. Some people respect you more, some become uncomfortable, some grow distant, some try to pull you back into the old pattern. This is where your courage is tested, because freedom is not only choosing your path, it is surviving the discomfort of others reacting to your freedom. The Stoic does not seek conflict, but he does not fear it when truth requires it. He understands that peace built on self-betrayal is not peace. It is a decorated prison. And many people live in that prison because everyone around them calls it harmony. But harmony without honesty is only silence with a smile. Real peace requires alignment, and alignment sometimes disappoints people. This is why the search for approval must end, not because people do not matter, but because your soul matters too. There is a difference between kindness and self-erasure, a difference between humility and insecurity, a difference between service and dependence, a difference between caring what people feel and being controlled by what people think. Stoicism does not tell you to become cold. It tells you to become governed by reason, by virtue, by character, by values, not by applause, not by fear, not by the emotional weather of the world. Imagine a great ship at sea. The waves rise, the wind turns violent, the sky darkens. If the ship has no anchor, every wave becomes its master. But if the anchor is deep, the storm may shake it, but cannot claim it. Your values are the anchor. Approval is the weather. Never confuse the two. When your life is anchored in approval, you drift endlessly. When your life is anchored in principle, you become steady. This is what it means to live by Stoic wisdom, not perfection, not emotional numbness, steadiness, the ability to say, I know what I stand for, I know what matters, I know what I must do. Whether they approve or not, I will not abandon myself. That is a powerful sentence. I will not abandon myself. Most approval seeking is self-abandonment repeated until it feels normal. You abandon your voice, your instincts, your boundaries, your purpose, your pace, your truth, and then wonder why you feel empty. But the emptiness is not proof that you are broken. It is a signal that you have been living too far from yourself. The return begins with honesty. You stop pretending certain things do not bother you. You stop pretending certain people deserve access to you. You stop pretending your dreams are small. You stop pretending you do not care about your own life. And slowly, you begin rebuilding trust with yourself. That trust is earned through action. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your self-respect grows. Every time you choose truth over performance, your center strengthens. Every time you act according to principle instead of fear, you reclaim power. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind no one can give you and no one can take. This is why discipline matters. Discipline is not only about waking early or working hard. Discipline is the ability to remain loyal to your values when approval tempts you to betray them. It is easy to speak of integrity when everyone praises you. Harder when honesty costs admiration. It is easy to claim independence when people clap. Harder when you walk alone. But the moment you can walk alone without resentment, without bitterness, without begging the world to follow, you become free. Loneliness changes then. At first, solitude feels like punishment because approval trained you to fear being unseen. But eventually, solitude becomes a sanctuary, a place where the noise of the world cannot reach you as easily, a place where your thoughts settle, a place where you remember what you actually believe. This is why so many ancient philosophers embraced stillness. Not because they hated people, but because they understood that wisdom needs space. You cannot hear your conscience clearly if you are always listening for applause. In the quiet, you begin noticing the difference between desire and direction. Desire asks, what will make them admire me? Direction asks, what will make me whole? Desire wants the reward. Direction wants the path. Desire is impatient. Direction is disciplined. The approval-seeking mind is always asking how things look. The principled mind asks what things are. This shift is not small. It changes how you move through the world. You stop entering rooms asking, do they like me? You begin asking, am I acting with integrity? You stop obsessing over being impressive. You begin becoming useful. You stop trying to appear powerful. You begin becoming steady. And the irony is this: when you stop seeking approval, you often become more respected, not always liked, respected. Because people sense when someone is no longer begging to be chosen. There is a quiet gravity in self-possession. A person who belongs to himself does not need to dominate the room. His presence speaks differently. He listens without desperation. He speaks without performance. He leaves without resentment. He builds without applause. That kind of person becomes rare, and rarity has weight. But this cannot be faked. People can sense fake detachment. They can sense when someone is pretending not to care while secretly craving attention. Real detachment is not performance, it is peace. It is the calm knowledge that your worth does not rise and fall with external response. It is the ability to receive praise without becoming addicted to it, and receive criticism without being destroyed by it. This does not mean criticism has no value. A wise person listens carefully. Sometimes others see flaws we are blind to. But there is a difference between learning from criticism and being ruled by it. Ask yourself, is this criticism true? Is it useful? Does it come from someone whose judgment I respect? Can it help me become better? If yes, receive it with humility. If no, release it without drama. Not every voice deserves residence in your mind. You must become selective. Your attention is not public property. Your emotional energy is not available for every opinion. Your peace is not a marketplace. This is one of the great marks of maturity. You stop reacting to every judgment. You stop defending every choice. You stop correcting every misunderstanding. You let some things pass, because you understand that your life is too short to spend it managing every perception. Seneca wrote, "If you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you will never be rich." That applies not only to money, it applies to the soul. If you live according to opinion, you will never feel full. There will always be another standard, another comparison, another expectation, another person to impress, another reason to doubt yourself. Opinion is endless. Nature is simpler. Nature asks you to become what you are meant to become, not what the crowd rewards. A tree does not ask permission to grow. A mountain does not ask whether it is impressive. The sun does not apologize for rising, and you must begin living from that same quiet certainty, not arrogance, certainty. There is nothing arrogant about refusing to abandon your own soul. The world may call it confidence, some may call it selfishness, others may call it change, but you will know what it truly is: return. A return to the self you neglected, a return to the voice you silenced, a return to the path you delayed, a return to the life that was waiting beneath the performance. This is where the story changes. The person who once sought approval begins moving differently. They become slower to explain, more careful with access, less desperate for response, more committed to discipline, more comfortable being unseen, more willing to be misunderstood, more focused on building than being noticed. Their life becomes quieter, but stronger. They no longer wake up asking how to please the world. They wake up asking how to live with honor. That question changes everything, because honor is internal, approval is external. Honor remains when crowds disappear. Approval disappears the moment attention moves elsewhere. To live for honor is to build something no one can confiscate: your character. And character is the one possession that follows you everywhere, into success, into failure, into rejection, into solitude, into death. The Stoics cared deeply about character because they understood that everything else is unstable. Health can fade, money can vanish, status can collapse, beauty changes, relationships shift, reputation can be misunderstood. But character belongs to you until you abandon it. And approval seeking often asks you to abandon it slowly, not all at once. Just a little compromise here, a little silence there, a little dishonesty to be liked, a little self-betrayal to keep peace, a little performance to stay admired, until one day you look in the mirror and recognize the face, but not the soul. That is the cost. And when you finally see it, something in you refuses to continue. You stop chasing the world, not out of hatred, out of exhaustion, out of clarity, out of a quiet desire to become whole again. This is where healing begins. At first, the silence after approval-seeking feels strange. You may feel invisible. You may wonder if you are becoming irrelevant. You may miss the old validation. You may feel tempted to perform again. This is normal. The old self does not disappear without resistance. But do not confuse withdrawal symptoms with truth. When you stop feeding dependence, dependence protests. Stay steady. Let the discomfort pass. There is a deeper peace beneath it. The first time you make a choice without needing approval, something shifts. The first time you allow someone to misunderstand you without chasing them, something strengthens. The first time you receive criticism and remain centered, something awakens. These moments may appear small, but they are victories, quiet victories, invisible victories, the kind that build a different life. You begin realizing that freedom does not feel dramatic. It feels calm. You do not need to announce it. You simply stop bending. You stop performing. You stop chasing. You stop letting the world hold your identity hostage. And slowly, you begin living from an inner place that cannot be easily shaken. This is the calm power people feel but cannot always explain. It is not loud, it is not desperate, it does not need applause. It stands like stone beneath storms. One day, someone criticizes you, and you listen without collapsing. Someone ignores you, and you continue your work. Someone misunderstands you, and you do not chase their correction. Someone leaves, and though it hurts, you do not abandon yourself to be chosen again. This is not indifference. This is maturity. You can care without being controlled. You can love without begging. You can serve without self-erasure. You can succeed without worshipping applause. You can fail without believing you are worthless. That is freedom. And when you reach even a glimpse of it, you understand why the Stoics spoke so often of self-mastery. Because self-mastery is not a harsh prison, it is release. Release from needing every voice to approve. Release from living as performance. Release from fearing rejection as if it were death. Release from the endless hunger to be seen by people who may never truly see you. The world becomes quieter then, not because it stops speaking, but because you stop treating every voice as authority. This is what happens when you stop seeking approval. You do not become cold, you become clear. You do not stop caring, you stop begging. You do not become isolated. You become selective. You do not reject the world. You stop asking the world to define you. And from that place, life begins opening differently. You choose better relationships because you are no longer desperate. You work with more focus because you are not constantly distracted by comparison. You speak more honestly because you are not terrified of disapproval. You rest more deeply because your mind is no longer performing endlessly. You become lighter, stronger, more grounded. And ironically, the approval you once chased may begin arriving naturally. But by then, it no longer owns you. That is the final test. Can you receive admiration without becoming addicted again? Can you be seen without needing to perform? Can you succeed without becoming dependent on applause? The Stoic answer is not to reject praise, it is to put praise in its proper place. Let praise be pleasant, not necessary. Let criticism be considered, not worshipped. Let attention come and go, but let character remain. Because in the end, the world will always change its mind. Crowds are restless, opinions are unstable, admiration is temporary. But the person who has mastered himself carries a kingdom no crowd can invade. That kingdom is inner peace. And it is not given. It is built. Built when you choose truth over approval. Built when you choose discipline over comfort. Built when you choose solitude over false belonging. Built when you choose self-respect over applause. Built when you stop asking the world to tell you who you are. So stop seeking approval from the world, not because the world is evil, but because the world was never meant to be your foundation. Let it witness you, let it misunderstand you, let it praise you, let it criticize you, let it change its mind. But do not hand it the key to your soul. Stand quietly, build deeply, move with honor. Let your actions speak. Let your character prove itself over time. And when the noise rises again, as it always will, remember this. You do not need to be approved by everyone to live with dignity. You do not need to be understood by everyone to walk your path. You do not need applause to become strong. The mountain does not ask the storm for permission to stand, and neither should you. When you stop seeking approval from the world, you begin returning to yourself, and when you return to yourself, everything changes.